Looking to Greece next, where the country is in 3 days of mourning, and the search is still on after one of the worst sea tragedies on the Mediterranean in recent memory. Greek officials say at least 78 migrants were killed when the ship capsized and sank on Wednesday. But survivors say as many as 400 to 750 people had been packed onto the fishing boat. And as search and rescue operations continue, fears grow that hundreds more, including many children, may have drowned. Those who survived the tragedy have harrowing stories to tell.
One man started to cry and tell me, "I want my mother, I want my mother." It was very difficult time, of course for him, and for us to listen in a young boy that he has a very dreadful psychological situation and problems of health, to need his mother. It was very difficult time.
Migrants who were rescued off the coast of Greece after the ship were brought to safety at the port of Kalamata. That's where Megan Williams is for us this morning. She's joining us now live. So Megan, thank you for this. What's the latest that you can bring us at this point on the investigation for the shipwreck?
Well, Hillary, I'm standing outside the Port Authority in Kalamata, where relatives, loved ones of people who were on that ship are flocking from all throughout Europe. They're coming from Germany, they're coming from Netherlands, they're coming from Spain. These are people who were migrants themselves 10, 15 years ago, sometimes even less. They are Pakistani, they are Egyptian, they are Syrian, and they're coming here, many in tears, trying to find out if their relatives are alive or dead. Now, the Port Authority office here is keeping the bodies, those 78 bodies they recovered from the shipwreck, and they're bringing in people one by one and asking them to perhaps identify if they can, but certainly they're asking them the names of the person that's missing. They're asking them details about clothing, anything to try and find loved ones who were on that ship that left Libya, headed for Italy, and ending up here in Greece.
This is not the way to can get a good future. This is not the way to come to Europe. If you would like to come to Europe, you have the legal way. We would like to inform everybody in our country. This is the legal way.
Now, that's an Egyptian, the head of an Egyptian community here in Greece, whom I spoke with earlier today. He came with a list of 85 different men who are missing from his country. Relatives in Egypt sent in those names. The particularly tragic thing about that is those 85 names are all from one small town in Egypt, south of Cairo. So the message that he's sending out is that these young men get duped by traffickers who pass through and tell them tall tales of success in Europe. And the other thing that everybody's telling me is that they didn't know their relatives were on that ship, that people, when they embark on that very, very dangerous journey to Libya, they don't tell anybody. They only tell people if they get to Europe.
With tragic outcomes at this point here, Megan. And of course, that's not the only person that you've been speaking with. What are some of the other stories that you're hearing?
A terrible story. A man is here. He's a taxi driver in Barcelona. He's Pakistani. He traveled all this way to try and find his 18-year-old brother who was recently married. He was very angry. He went to the warehouse last night where the survivors slept. They've now left to a refugee camp near Athens, but he talked to some of the survivors, and the survivors said that the Greek helicopter was buzzing around them off and on for several days. The Greek Coast Guard was there, as we know. There's a lot of anger that more wasn't done to save that ship. Now, we've heard from the Greek Coast Guard that they tried to convince them to come to Greece, that the migrants, at least some of them, perhaps traffickers, we just don't know yet, did not want to come to Greece. They wanted to go to Italy. But there's amongst the people mourning here, there's a lot of anger as well that more wasn't done to save the perhaps hundreds who have died.